Welcome back, everyone. Great to have you with us again. We're here every weekday, bringing you fascinating insights into the topics you care about.
And since it's Thursday, we're focusing, as always, on famous people who genuinely shifted how we see the world.
Today, we're tackling someone whose impact is just immense, a real giant of literature.
We are indeed. We're talking about J.R.R. Tolkien?
Yeah.
John Ronald Reuel Tolkien, the name behind, well, The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, works known across the entire globe.
Exactly. And look, most people know Middle-earth from the films,
Yeah.
right? The epic battles, the elves, the ring. It's huge in pop culture.
Absolutely massive.
But our goal today is maybe to look a bit beyond that,
Yeah.
to explore the foundations, the academic life, the deep thinking, the philosophy that actually allowed him to build that entire world.
We've gathered sources on his life, his influences, his theological ideas. It's quite a tapestry.
It really is. It's this fascinating split, isn't it, between the sort of quiet Oxford professor and the architect of this whole other reality.
That's the core of it, yeah.
So let's start with the man himself. Basic facts. Born in South Africa, 1892.
Mm-hmm.
But his childhood, or a key part of it, was spent in England, in Sarehole, near Birmingham. Apparently a very rural, idyllic place back then.
Right, and that landscape deeply influenced his vision of the Shire later on. Very important. But his early life had tragedy, too. His mother died when he was quite young, 1904.
And he and his brother became wards of a Catholic priest. That faith became very central to him.
Crucial. But something we absolutely have to stress is his core identity. Before the novels took off, he was, first and foremost, an academic.
Okay.
A very serious one, professor at Oxford. And his field was languages. Specifically, Old English, Anglo-Saxon, and related Germanic languages. He was what we call a philologist.
Philologist. Okay, that sounds quite technical. What did that actually mean for someone who ended up writing about hobbits and orcs?
Well, it means he wasn't just learning languages. He was studying their history, their evolution, how words change meaning, how myths get encoded in vocabulary, how, grammar shapes a culture's worldview. Ah, I see.
He even worked on the Oxford English Dictionary for a time, the big one.
Wow.
Yeah. So his whole life was steeped in the deep history of words. That's fundamental.
And it wasn't just ivory tower stuff either. He fought in World War I.
Yes, a lieutenant. Saw action at the Battle of the Somme. Horrific fighting.
And you can feel that, can't you, in the books?
Oh, absolutely. Scholars point to it all the time. The grimness of Mordor, the industrial destruction of Isengard, that feeling of loss of a world scarred by war. It comes straight from the trenches, It's not just background, it's baked in.
So, a deeply serious scholar shaped by intense experiences. But he also had some fun quirks, apparently.
He did, which makes him more human, I think.
Yeah.
Consider The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Massive book. Took him about 14 years to write.
Right.
And how did he type it? With 2 fingers?
Yeah.
Apparently, he'd hunt for each letter on the keyboard. Imagine the patience.
That's dedication. Or maybe madness. A bit of both, perhaps. And it all stemmed from this love of language. The sources say he knew around 30 languages, ancient ones, modern ones.
30? Wow.
Yeah. And that wasn't just showing off. That knowledge is why he could create languages like Elvish Quenya and Sindarin that felt real. They had grammar, history, depth. It makes Middle-earth feel ancient and lived in.
And then there's the spider thing, his arachnophobia.
Ah, yes. Apparently a really bad case. It seems it started when he was just a baby in South Africa, bitten by a tarantula-like spider.
Yikes.
And that personal terror, it becomes Shelob. That giant, terrifying spider in the pass of Cirith Ungol. It's like he took his own nightmare and put it on the page.
A way of processing it, maybe?
Quite possibly. But he wasn't all gloom and spiders. He had this rather abstract sense of humor, too.
Like running outside dressed as a warrior.
Exactly. Sources mention him charging out of his house in a helmet, waving an axe, yelling things in Old Norse at startled neighbors. Just for fun.
Okay, that's pretty quirky.
And his son Michael, when filling out army forms, apparently listed his father's occupation as wizard.
He did not.
I reportedly did. So you see, he lived with one foot in academia and the other maybe in Middle-earth itself.
Right. Okay, let's shift from the man to the works themselves. The Hobbit, 1937. Then the big one, The Lord of the Rings, mid-50s.
And it famously started almost by accident, didn't it?
That's the story, yeah. Grading exam papers, a boring task, and he just scribbled on a blank page. In a hole in the ground, there lived a hobbit.
And from that one sentence, an entire universe unfolds. Amazing.
But it's not just adventure. The sources really highlight the the wisdom packed into these stories, things that resonate deeply.
Absolutely. That's a huge part of the appeal, especially for thoughtful readers. It's not just escapism. There are these moments of profound insight about life, choice, courage.
You pulled a few key quotes, like Gandalf's line about time and agency. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given us.
Hmm. So simple, yet so powerful. It puts the responsibility right back on you, doesn't it? Not fate, not circumstance, but your choice right now.
And there's that one about journeys, which feels universal. It's a dangerous business, Frodo, going out your door. You step onto the road, and if you don't keep your feet, there's no knowing where you might be swept off to.
Perfectly captures that sense of risk and potential in just starting something new, leaving comfort behind. You have to step onto the road, even if it's scary.
But maybe the most powerful ethical moment is Gandalf talking about Gollum, about judgment.
Ah, yes. Many that live deserve death, and some that die deserve life. Can you give it to them? Then do not be too eager to deal out death and judgment, for even the very wise cannot see all ends.
That hits hard. It's a real challenge to easy answers, to simple vengeance.
It really is. It's about humility, recognizing our limited view. Mercy becomes paramount even when it's difficult. It elevates the whole narrative beyond just good versus evil.
And one more about grief. I will not say, do not weep, for not all tears are an evil.
Beautiful. It validates sadness, doesn't it? It says feeling sorrow is okay. It's human. It's not weakness, especially in the face of loss.
So much depth there.
Yeah.
Now, his legacy, people often call him the father of modern fantasy, but the sources suggest that's, well, maybe not quite right.
It's complicated. Yes, he hugely influenced the genre, but his own work felt different, more ancient somehow.
Because his influences weren't really contemporary novels.
Exactly. He was drawing on much older stuff, things he studied academically, ancient Greek epics like Homer, Old English poems like Beowulf, Sir Gawain, and the Green Knight. Those were his models.
And specific myths, too.
Oh, very specific. Gandalf's name and the names of all the dwarves in The Hobbit. They come directly from a list in the Voluspa, part of the Old Norse Poetic Edda.
No kidding.
Straight out of the mythology. And his big creation story, the Silmarillion, owes a huge debt to the Finnish national epic, the Kalevala, in terms of its tone and structure. He was consciously building on these ancient foundations.
Which connects to his whole philosophy of writing, this mythopoeia.
Right. And this is key. It wasn't just world building in the way modern fantasy writers often talk about it. It was deeper, more structural.
How so?
He didn't start with a map or a plot, really. He started by inventing languages.
It started with the Elvish language first.
Essentially, yes. Quenya, Sindarin. He worked out their grammar, their sound systems, their history, and then the mythology, the history of the peoples who spoke those languages, the geography they lived in, all of that emerged from the languages.
Wow. So the culture literally grew out of the words.
Precisely. The words they use define the universe they inhabit. That's mythopoeia, creating a mythology that feels real because it arises organically, the way real myths develop in real cultures, linked to language. It's why Middle-earth feels so internally consistent and, well, deep.
That commitment to mythological consistency must be why he wasn't always thrilled with the fantasy that came after him. Even C.S. Lewis's work, and they were close friends in the Inklings group.
Right. Despite their friendship, Tolkien had reservations. He apparently disliked it when magic became too systematized, like a sort of alternative science with rigid rules, what we might call hard magic systems today.
Why? What was wrong with that for him?
He felt it stripped magic of its mystery, its numinous quality. It wasn't myth anymore, just a different kind of physics. He wanted it to feel more like, well, enchantment, something beyond easy explanation.
And his issues with Lewis's Narnia.
Two main things, according to the sources. First, the Christian allegory was too obvious for Tolkien's taste. He preferred his own Catholicism to be woven into the deep structure, the subcreation, not laid on top so directly.
Okay.
Second, he disliked Lewis mixing mythologies, having Father Christmas show up alongside fauns and figures from Greek myth like Bacchus. For Tolkien, who built his world from a coherent linguistic and mythological base, that felt messy. Haphazard.
A purist, in a way.
In that specific creative sense, yes. He wanted his secondary world to have its own internal integrity.
Which brings us to this really interesting tension. He called Lord of the Rings fundamentally religious and Catholic, but also insisted its world wasn't bound by the rules of our world. How does that work?
Through his concept of subcreation. That's the key idea.
Subcreation.
Yeah. The idea is that humans, being made in God's image, have this innate drive to create. Our art, our stories, our myths, They are acts of subcreation, secondary creation, that echoes God's primary creation.
So we're like apprentices to the master artist.
In a sense. And a successful subcreation results in a secondary world like Middle-earth, which is internally consistent, believable on its own terms. It reflects truths about the primary world, our reality, but isn't identical to it. It has its own rules, its own metaphysics.
So Middle-earth can be deeply Catholic in its themes, hope, sacrifice, pity, without having, say, the exact theology of the Roman Catholic Church.
Precisely. It allows the created world its own autonomy. And this ties into what some call his theology of hope. Hope, or Estil in Elvish, is almost like faith in his world. It's this deep trust in the ultimate victory of good, even when everything looks bleak.
And he builds that hope through the stories themselves, using that idea of eucatastrophe.
Exactly. Eucatastrophe. That's his term for the sudden, joyous turn, the unexpected happy ending when all seems lost. Think of Gollum accidentally destroying the ring.
Right. It wasn't Frodo's heroic act alone.
No, it was this unforeseen, almost miraculous event. Tolkien believed that these kinds of stories, these myths with a eucatastrophe, they prepare our hearts. They make us receptive to what he saw as the ultimate true myth that entered history, the Christian gospel, with its own ultimate eucatastrophe in the resurrection.
So the fantasy story primes the pump for faith, in a way.
That seems to be the idea. But it's fascinating because when you dig into the foundations of Middle-earth, the old stones he built with, you find elements that aren't purely Christian. They show him transforming older myths.
Like the creator figure, Eru Ilúvatar.
Right. While Eru is the one, the ultimate creator, he also has echoes of figures like the Germanic Allfather, or even the Zoroastrian high god Ahura Mazda. He's drawing from a wider pool.
And the Valar, the angelic beings.
They're not quite standard angels. They function more like creators or shapers themselves, using music to bring the world into being. Again, that resonates with other creation myths, perhaps even Zoroastrian concepts of divine emanations.
What about his idea of evil? Is it just the absence of good, like in some traditions?
It's more complex in the narrative, I think. While philosophically he might align with evil as a privation, for the story to work, evil needed to be active. Sauron, the Shadow, the Ringwraith, they aren't just nothingness.
They seem very real, very tangible threats.
Exactly. The Ringwraiths, for instance. Their name Wraith connects to an old word meaning to writhe or to twist. They are corrupted beings, insubstantial yet horribly powerful. He makes evil feel like a palpable force, a shadow with agency.
And all this complexity, this weaving of different threads, leads to a really profound possibility at the very end, doesn't it? In the deep mythology.
You're thinking of apokatastasis. Universal reconciliation.
Yeah. Is that really hinted at?
It seems to be, subtly. In the Ainulindale, the creation music myth, it describes a second, greater music to be performed at the end of time. And it says this music will be sung by all the Ainur.
All of them, including
Potentially even Melkor or Morgoth, the original source of evil. The implication, though never explicitly stated, is that perhaps even the ultimate evil might eventually be redeemed, reconciled, woven back into the harmony. That evil itself ultimately serves the greater good of Eru's plan.
That's a staggering thought. A universe where ultimate hope extends even to the source of darkness.
It is. It suggests an incredibly deep optimism underpinning the entire creation.
So wrapping this up, what we see is Tolkien, the meticulous linguist, the scholar, using his academic tools not just for study, but for creation, for this act of mythopoeia.
Exactly. He wasn't just escaping into fantasy. He was building a secondary world as a serious philosophical and, dare I say, spiritual act, giving form to ideas about hope, loss, courage, and the deep patterns of myth.
He demonstrated that studying the past, studying words, could be the key to creating something profoundly new and meaningful for the present.
Absolutely. Ancient knowledge fueling modern hope.
Which leaves us with a thought for you, the listener, to maybe take away today. Tolkien showed how invented languages shape a fictional world's reality. So think about the real words we use every day, simple words in English or any language. How might their hidden histories, their etymologies, be subtly shaping how we perceive the history, the morality, the very fabric of the world around us?
Something to ponder, definitely. The power of words is immense.
Well, thank you for joining us today as we explored the life and mind of J.R.R. Tolkien, truly one of the people who shaped our modern imagination. We hope digging into the roots of Middle-earth was interesting for you.
It was a pleasure discussing him. Thanks for tuning in.
And please do join us again tomorrow. It's Friday, and as always on Fridays, we'll be diving into some fascinating books, To make sure you catch that and all our future shows, just hit that subscribe button on your podcast app.
We look forward to having you back.
Until then, take care.